Lesson 3.3. We are working with the essential question of, does the order in which you perform an operation matter? We're taking it to another level, and we're actually identifying the specific expressions that tie with each algebraic expression that you write. So if you take a look on page 128 in your book, you have some new vocabulary to add, and the vocabulary would be equivalent expressions, expressions with the same value, like 12 plus 7 and 7 plus 12 are equivalent expressions. You can use the commutative and associative properties to write equivalent fractions. So let's take a look at what those are. Your commutative properties: changing the order of add-ins or factors does not change the sum or the product. In other words, addition and multiplication, you can flip the numbers and or any algebraic digit variable, and it won't matter in the outcome of the problem. Now the associative property, that is, changing the grouping of add-ins or factors does not change the sum or product. So let's take a look at the numbers. You have 7 plus 4 plus 2. That's the same as saying 7 plus, in parentheses then, 4 plus 2. You can move the parentheses around when the problems are addition and multiplication. You cannot do it if you add in a subtraction or division. And then there's the algebraic representation of it. All right, let's look at example 1. Simplify the expression. Well, before we do that, let's look at the study tip. One way to check whether expressions are equivalent is to evaluate each expression for any value of the variable. In other words, you would replace your variable with a number. Then you try to work out the problem. So you replace the variable on the left side of the equal sign and then on the right side of the equal sign in the equation, and see if it still equals the same product or sum. So let's go back to 1a. You have 7 plus 12 plus x, and you see where the parentheses are. And they've done the same thing on the other side. They're showing both are equal. They can use the associative property of addition. They can flip around the parentheses. It doesn't matter where you put it. But the simplified version is 19 plus x. So no matter whether you do 12 plus x or 7 plus 12, the simplified problem is 19 plus x. Okay? Now it says simplify the expression 6.1 plus x plus 8.4. On the left side you have 6.1 plus x plus 8.4, which is the same thing. If you use the commutative, I always have a problem with commutative property of addition, you still can flip around your parentheses. It doesn't matter. If you do the associative, sorry, had a pause to sneeze there. All right, let's go back to B. What they did to use the commutative property of addition is they changed around the numbers and the variable in the first example. That's possible because you're dealing only with addition in this problem. If they were to change it from commutative to associative, basically there you're just moving the parentheses. Now, to simplify the problem, you're basically adding 6.1 and 8.4, and then you're adding the x to the problem. It can say x plus 14 plus 5 or 14.5 plus x. All right, take a look at C. That's using multiplication. In multiplication, you have 5 times y11, which is in parentheses, and that equals, using the associative property of multiplication, 5 times 11 in parentheses and y on the outside. So if you simplify it, it simplifies to 55y. All right, I want you to practice on a problem, and here it is. Please simplify the following problems. And all I want you to do, you're not showing me any properties, just go to the final simplify of that. Pause and do that, and when you're done, return. Okay, the best way to simplify those are your answers. Next, I want you to do the on your own for 1, 2, and 3 on page 128 and come back for the answers. Remember, you're showing each step, which means you have to show any kind of properties, commutative and associative properties of addition, and of, looks like you've also got multiplication. So make sure you list it out. This is something that should be done in your binder under a label of 3.3. Come back for the answers. Okay, here's an example of the answer to number 1. On the first line here, I just have the original problem. Then I redid it. Looks like I even made a mistake on there. Okay, then I redid the problem to rewrite it as 10 plus, oh my goodness, I made another mistake. Let's fix that. Okay, to show the commutative property of addition, it would have been written as 10 plus 9 plus a in parentheses. Then associative property of addition would have been 10 plus 9 plus a. In other words, putting the numbers together and leaving the variable out. Simplified, you're just doing 19 plus a. All right, I will read you the answers to the other ones. They should follow a similar order in your notes. All right, so if you were to show the associative property of addition, because this is the only one that would apply for number 2, you should have, and you know what, I'll give you the final answer right here. For number 2, you should have written C plus parentheses, and this is going to be weird the way I write it, but 2/3 plus 1/2 in parentheses. Okay, that's the associative property of addition on that one, and that's the only thing that works. So your simplification will be, when you simplify, is C plus 1 and 1/6. And let's put a space there. That's your simplified problem for number 2. All right, let's try number 3. I'll put it in here just like the other ones. It's easier than reading it, I guess. Number 3 should look, you have your original problem. You should have rewritten the problem, and there should be a dot there, not a times sign. It's just right now I'm typing it out, so it makes it kind of hard. And 4 in parentheses n. And that is the associative property of multiplication. And to simplify that would be 20n. All right, let's move on to, well, before we move on, I just want to let you know, if you had any problems with this, please go back and relook at it. You may have to just relook at it as we move on and you get into your extra problems that you have to do. All right, let's take a look at page 129. Here's the addition property of 0. The sum of any number and 0 is that number. Simple. Just like in regular math, it's the same way in algebra. The multiplication properties of 0 and 1, the product of any number and 0 is 0. The product of any number and 1 is 1. Same regular math, numerical expressions, and algebraic expressions. So here we're using properties to write equivalent expressions. You're doing exactly what you did in the last example, but they're using 0. That's the only difference. They're using 0 as one of the numbers. So if you want to read through example 2, that shouldn't be a problem for you. Let's move on to example 3. The common error in a word problem like the one we're going to read is that the word problem is going to say you and 6 friends are on the team. So make sure you use the expression 7x, not 6x, to represent the cost of the t-shirts. So let's take a look at what we did. You and 6 friends play on a basketball team. A sponsor paid $100 for the league fees, X dollars for each player's t-shirt, and $68.25 for trophies. Write an expression for the total amount that the sponsor paid. Okay, so you're going to add the league fee, the cost of the t-shirts, and the cost of the... All right, so after reading and add the league fee, the cost of the t-shirts, and the cost of the trophies, you can write out 100, you know that, plus 7, because that's how many players, you and 6 friends, times the cost of the t-shirts, times the cost that each player's t-shirt, that's your variable, plus then $68.25. Change it into the commutative property of addition, and then simplify it, and that's your answer. So if you would please do numbers 4 through 7 on your own and come back for the answers. Number 4, after writing the problem, you should have written 12 times, in parentheses, b times 0. That's the associative property. Then 12 times 0 is the multiplication property of 0. And then 0 is your answer. Number 5, you should have done in parentheses 1 times m times 24. Associative property of multiplication, that's what that is. And then m times 24, which is the, multiplication property of 1. And then your final answer is 24m. Number 6 is t plus, in parentheses, 15 plus 0. And then that's the associative property of addition. And then you should have written t plus 15, which is your addition property of 0. That's the end of section 3.3.